Hey guys, and welcome to our first ever premiere video. This is going to be a best of 5 showdown between the legendary Dacta and the mighty and fearsome Showtime. This is from the Death Before Dishonour qualifier number 1 of season 6, which we did indeed host yesterday. Unfortunately, we did stream the semi-finals before my internet did cut out. Phoned them up today and basically said it rained, so your internet died, which was real lovely to see. Unfortunately, put me in a really grumpy mood, but it is giving us a chance here to kind of showcase the premiere feature of YouTube. I'm going to be chilling out in chat as well with you guys if you are watching this live, so hopefully it'll still give you a good old live experience, and there should be some good fun all round. So we did manage to get through the first game before on stream, but I'm going to showcase it again once again here, because of course we want to get the full best of 5 in its entirety, and it is going to be Dacta's Vampire Counts leading the way here up against Showtime's Empire Forces. Should be a good fun game. So for the forces of the Counts in the front line, we do have an absolute bucket ton of zombies dotted all the way along here. These guys cheap, cheerful, there to absorb the enemy charge and damage, while the rest of his build kind of packs a more of a meaty punch. We also have skeleton warriors dotted all the way along, so an incredibly cheap and cheerful infantry core to his build, and that is because he has gone bad to the bones with triple Blood Knights here. Blood Knights, anti-large, frenzy-dealing vampire maniacs, are certainly a good tool up against the Empire, can counter enemy cavalry very effectively. The only thing they're really scared of is Demigryph Knights and, of course, mass handguns, but this build certainly has the tools, kind of swamp handguns and the like. We have Vargulf on foot here as well, as some Fellbats who are going to be escorting a Blood Dragon Vampire Lord up in the skies. One of the most popular picks for the Vampire Counts, and he's looking incredibly badass. This model is so cool. He's coming with Heart Piercer, of course, Helm of Discord, a powerful Hex, minus 24 melee attack and melee defense. We have Raise Dead, Dance Macabre, as well as Invocation the Hex, so good solid build all round, certainly looking to punish the opponent with cavalry play. Looks like we have some direwolves as well, hidden in the trees. Now, for the forces of the Empire, we have a lovely unbreakable front line with Sigma's most lunatic fanatics, the Flagellants, dotted in the front line, as well as the Sigma Sons, unbreakable swordsmen. And again, much like the Count's zombie horde, these guys are here to absorb the charge while the rest of the build does the damage. We do have double Outriders on this right-hand flank, and their AP is going to be crucial here into taking down some of the larger creatures and cavalry. Leading the charge, we have Volkmar the Grim, the moustache-twirling maniac himself, looking incredibly badass and serious here. Of course, going to be coming in with Grand Soulfire, Grand Shield of Faith, as well as Grand Hammer of Sigma, as well as his Banishment and his Jade Griffin to give him some nice regenerative powers. He's, of course, unbreakable as well, fantastic at clearing through chaff. We have a couple of spearmen in the back line as well for a tiny bit of protection. Then hidden in the trees, we have triple Demigryph Knights. Double Halberd and 1 Lance is a really deadly combination. Funnily enough, the Lances actually do more damage against enemy cavalry than the Halberds, which seems bizarre because they're anti-infantry rather than anti-large, but the Demigryphs are much better at taking down dragons, Vargulfs and the like, so I like the combination of the 3 here. And they're going to be rolling dirty with a Bright Wizard, coming with Flaming Sword, Fireball and Burning Head. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. So both forces are going to start pushing towards each other now. Looks like the Empire do not know about the direwolves lurking in the wings. And the Empire forces marching forward relatively confident here. With the triple Demigryph Knights in your build, you would feel pretty happy indeed. And I really hope they get a clash here up against the Blood Knights. That'd be some glorious stuff indeed. We're on a really interesting map here, the Ashen Hall I believe it's called, and it's one I've been slowly bringing into the competitive scene a little bit. It's got those nice dotted bits of trees, some impassable terrain, hills and all sorts, but I still think it's relatively well balanced. Outriders are overextending here a little bit, simply because they do not know the direwolves lurk behind them. It looks like they are going to be unleashing some shots into the Fellbats, which is an interesting choice. I mean, I guess he wants to drive them off, but these little bats are pretty good at juking back and forth and avoiding the shots where possible. It looks like some Blood Knights are floating over as well to come say hello, but pretty decent damage straight out of the gate actually onto the Fellbats. Down about a third health here, driving them away as well, although it looks like the zombies as well are going to be blocking the path of the Outriders and chase them off up the hill here. In the front line, looks like we did take a breath attack on some of the Demigryphs and Flagellants here, but not doing too much damage, just 12 kills, which isn't too fantastic for a breath attack, but still, you know, damage is indeed damage. Looks like we are going to get a fat fireball going after him as well, but it is going to hit a tree right in front of that wizard. He really disliked that tree, it seems, and it is going to be burning down here. Blood Knights are all coming as one unified force over on this left-hand side. It looks like the Demigryph Knights have been dragged wide here, chasing off direwolves, and the Vampire Counts could take advantage of this. So there's more Demigryph Knights coming in to take on the Blood Knights, but they're coming in drips and drabs. They're not fighting on a unified front like the Blood Knights are, who are simply going to pull back here. Would have been a bad engagement for them with the Outriders lurking. But looks like they are going to float over to this side now with the help of the Direwolves to try and pin in this one unit of Halberds and finish them off. And this is great use of mobility all round. If these guys can pin in the Demigryph Knights and kind of dismantle them here, they'll then have a huge advantage in the cavalry fight going forward. Looks like we are attempting to see a zombie summon as well from the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord to pin these guys in place, which is a really cool gambit all round. Blood Knights are fighting in the front line now up against the Demigryphs, and double Demigryphs are coming in, but the Vargoth is going pretty strong, doing some decent damage, as the main infantry corps is going to be a bit of a wet noodle contest, to be honest. The two wet lasses kind of beating each other up and punching each other. Now this is a beautiful attempt here by the Empire forces. Flaming Sword of Ruin is popped down on the Outriders, giving them fire damage and increased damage. And the Vargoth, of course, has a weakness to fire, so if they can unleash some shots, they would do devastating damage. But unfortunately for them, a well-timed push by the Fellbats and zombies is pinning them in place, stopping them firing and kind of mucking up their arc of fire. Looks like Sigma, or the Wrath of Sigma, is being brought down by Volkmar here, who has been hit by a Helm of Discord. If we have a little look in the distance, it looks like those Demigryph Knights were forced off as well on the left-hand side, which is big problems for the force of the Empire, as their backline does start to get slightly overrun. Now, the Blood Knights are pretty beat up as well, but fighting toe-to-toe with the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is some pretty scary stuff, and it looks like the Vampire Counts are in the ascendancy. However, the Bright Wizard, not willing to go down without a fight, does drop a fat fireball into the mists of all their enemies, and Volkmar still going strong as well, popping all his buffs and debuffs, but there's so many Blood Knights left, kind of lurking, pushing all around the field. Demigryphs being chased off. Great use of the Fellbats as well, being used to hunt down Outriders. And it looks like round one is going to be going to Dacta there and his Vampire Count forces. So let's go do a tiny bit of a breakdown here before we do sort out the scoreboard and the like. That's going to be a problem, not doing this live. And knowing me, I will leave up a screen blocker or forget to do the scores, but I will try my best. So, as for Dacta's forces, bad to the bones, hardcore triple Blood Knight build, coming in as well with the Helm of Discord Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Very thematic all round, and certainly did some good work. Isolating those Demigryphs on the right-hand flank was really key, and then gave him a massive boost in the cavalry engagements to go forward. Of course, Undead also have healing, which can really help them up against the Demigryph force. As for Showtime, I love the attempt with the Outriders and the Flaming Sword of Ruin. Unfortunately, because of good pressure from Dacta, he wasn't quite able to pull it off. I've been really interested to see how much damage they had done in those 1 or 2 volleys, and I think the Outriders were pretty key to winning this, as well as keeping the Demigryphs alive. But unfortunately, Volkmar did go down swinging, though, still 250 kills. So I wonder what you guys made of that one. So let's update to the scoreboards quickly. So we are going to have, boop, a 1-0 lead to Dacta. Of course, though, guys, this is best of 5, tournament rules and all that good standard stuff. So still plenty of time to Showtime to come back into this one. So we are going to pop up a glorious-looking screen blocker here, just so you guys can't see the number of replays. And that's one of the cool advantages, actually doing this as a premiere rather than a standard video. If you are watching this live, one, hello from the past. Yeah, you won't be able to see kind of how much time and stuff is left. Cool, so let's load up the next replay here. And then, before I forget, let's get rid of that pesky screen blocker. Bam! And it is going to be Dacta leading the forces of the Vampire Coast, betraying his own kind and going up against Showtime's Wood Elves. Dacta is an incredibly talented Wood Elf player and is going against them here today, but perhaps it gives him a bit of an advantage because he does know all the tricks of the trade, I suppose, that the Wood Elves can bring. We actually saw a game like this earlier on in the tournament as well, where Pirates managed to win. They just have so much good cheap firepower, it can be really tough for the Wood Elf forces all round. So it looks like hidden way in the corner, just in case there was any sneaky vanguard, which is a really good idea actually. We have triple Scurvy Dogs, as well as the Night Terrors, and even Count Noculus dotted over here as well, who is going to be leading the force from his peg-legged monstrosity here. Coming in with Captain Roth's Moondial. We also have Invocation the Heck and Drowned Dead, so the competitive kind of toolkit for him. And yeah, the reason Dacta's put his troops in this far corner is perhaps hoping that the Wood Elves would have vanguarded behind there, realising that the Counts probably wanted to take the higher ground, and he would have been able to call them out. But unfortunately for him, his gambit did not pay off there, but at the same time, they can simply waddle back to the front lines. In the battle lines, we do have zombie pirate deckhand mobs spread quite nicely all the way around the foot of this hill, and we have a ton of handgunners as well, kind of dotted around, so triple handgunners. We also have some deckhand mob polearms in the centre pocket. We have double deck gunners, which is a really good pick. You don't get to see these guys terribly often in most matchups, but up against Wood Elves, the added 245 range really allows you to kind of outshoot the Wood Elves, which is obviously something the Wood Elves never really want to be in a position where they are indeed getting outshot. To help aid in this, we also have double mortars, as well as 2 units of polearms to help protect them against pesky cavalry and the like. Really solid build all around. I don't play Coast too much myself, but even I can tell this is a pretty disgustingly good build. You just outshoot the enemy. If they do get close, you hop on them with the Night Terrors. So really fun stuff. As for the Wood Elves, really a wide deployment here, going as wide as possible almost. If you look at the minimap, it's basically a big bloody smile. And for his forces, hidden in some trees, we do have some Glade Riders, and these guys, pretty damn quick, 150 range as well, should allow them to do some good damage. For their main battle line, it looks like we actually have Glade Guard dotted all the way along, just the basic ones, which makes them a little bit more cheap and cheerful than the Starfire shafts and the like, and they're going for a mass bowfire build. Although he's combining it as well with some Dryads, these guys decided not to use their massive Vanguard, instead waiting back a little bit, playing a little bit more patient, which is always good to see. Leading the Dryad contingent, we do have a Branch Wraith coming in with Earthblood, Awakening Wood, as well as a Scroll of Shielding, which is such a good item, which I recommend you always bring pretty much when you can. 22% damage resistance for 57 seconds is crazy good, and can really help you in some key engagements. Up front, we do have the Glade Lady, of course, on horseback, which I think is one of the matchups where horseback is actually a bit better for her than an eagle or a dragon. She's going to be coming in with the prey and, of course, arrows of Kurnos, trying to take out artillery models where possible. Over on this side, we do have triple Way Watchers as well, and they're going to be backed up by double Glade Riders, one of which has Hagbane tips. Now, one of the reasons I'm a massive advocate for Glade Riders in general, I think they're very, very potent and deadly, is not only are they very quick and do decent bowfire all round, they have pretty good melee stats with 28 and 24 respectively on attack and defense, and a decent enough charge bonus of 24 can let them swarm and push back hounds, which is always a normally kind of a big pressure that is put upon you by forces such as the Vampire Pirates here. So it looks like the Wood Elves are going to be advancing here, and the mortars are going to choose to fire on the Glade Lady, which normally you wouldn't think is too good an idea, but it is going to allow him to sit back and shoot while the rest of the Wood Elves do get in position, as obviously he doesn't want to give up his hill advantage where possible. But it looks like Showtime is quite happy just to bounce back and forth, juke the shots, and allow this Glade Lady to ride into glorious battle here. We do have some massive cannon shots coming through once again by Count Noctilus, and she is rather squishy, so if she does take a few hits, it can be some scary stuff, but quite happy just to juke back and forth while the Way Watchers do get into position. They're certainly going to want to focus down the deck gunners as well as the mortars, but Count Noctilus as well could be a good target for them. Interesting to see no Wild Riders in this Wood Elf build, a unit you see quite often. Whoever built this house here, by the way, I just like to point this out. People who build houses in Warhammer are not too clever. Why on earth would you build a house in the middle of a gigantic field with nothing around apart from some very creepy looking mountains? Only Sigma knows, I suppose. Glade Lady is going to be dancing forward here a little bit, probably going to be trying to get some early shots on Count Noculus. And it looks like she may take a bit of volley, but no, she actually does a prey of enough Rama on the Scurvy Dogs, which may seem like an odd pick because they're relatively cheap. You normally do it on high value targets, but they're one of the biggest threats to this Wood Elf build. And if they just charge in and get their teeth to grips on the Glade Guard, it can be some pretty scary stuff. And it looks like Dactyr knows this, so he's going to be popping in Invocation the Heck to keep these guys nice and topped up. And it looks like some counterfire is going to go in on the Way Watchers as well. So nice recovery by Dactyr there, good sniping attempt by Showtime. Glade Guard are now firing in, focusing down the hand gunners, realising that the deckhand mobs will simply be cleared up by Dryads if it comes down to it. And here we see Glade Riders probably going to be moved into combat up against the Scurvy Dogs. Lovely play here, just as we spoke about before. With an Earthblood as well, they're going to easily overrun the Scurvy Dogs and protect the Way Watchers on this flank. And the Counts are starting, or not Counts, sorry, the Coast are starting to take quite hefty damage here. Handgunners getting obliterated, and even Count Noculus taking quite a few shots, but Deck Gunners are returned firing. Waywatcher's taken a bit of a beating as another unit of Scurvy Dogs does indeed push. Glade Riders looping back up and around these Waywatchers and need to come slamming back home to really punish these guys. It looks like the remaining 2 units of Scurvy Dogs are both going to commit, but a huge volley to the face is going to do massive damage and kind of drive those guys back as the bows continue to sing. This is Wood Elf play at its finest. You think we can't? You think of your fancy technology and guns, we can't outshoot you? Well, here's a billion bows to blot out the sun, doing massive damage. Although they are focusing down at the deckhand mobs now, which isn't the worst idea. Will allow the Dryads to push through them a little bit quicker and get into the back line. But the counts are certainly not done for yet by any stretch of the imagination. Still, all their heavy hitters are indeed online, and the Wood Elf build is incredibly fragile. 1 or 2 misplays of this build, and it's certainly all over. Deck Gunners getting some pretty decent work done now, and Count Noctilus as well, up to 41 kills, cackling and doing decent work. But triple Waywatchers still online. Looks like they are focusing down at the handgunners, and once again the Scurvy Dogs are going to drive forward here, but they're in a really tough situation with the Glade Riders simply chilling back and protecting. Looks like they are going to change priority targets and perhaps try to loop through the centre pocket and shut down the Glade Guard instead, which might be a good idea. Looks like for the most part the Pirates are going to start pushing forward as well, realising they are losing the gun game. But a couple of summons of deckhand mobs to block in units and slowly waste ammunition is a good way forward. And the Scurvy Dogs have now pushed in. The Dryads have committed to the front line, which is going to allow the Scurvy Dogs free reign here. And yeah, these Glade Guard not having a good time at all now, being absolutely destroyed here. And this is a fantastic fight back here by Dacta. Glade Riders once again also being the focus of a bit of attention as they try to rotate around to deal with the Scurvy Dog menace. Although the Scurvy Dogs have been caught by some Dryads now, not the best target for them, but Night Terror's doing a pretty decent work as well, helping win that frontline engagements. Mortars are now the focus of bowfire attention, and they will definitely not last very long up against the might of the Waywatchers. But Scurvy Dogs once again do bounce back. Really good play with them so far to try and put as much pressure on the opponent as possible. And the Dryads are simply going to be cleared up here by the Night Terrors, and there's not too much bowfire left on this flank to really help protect them. Count Noctilus, however, is taking an absolute beating, but Invocation in the Heck should make him a lot more cheerful and kind of keep him a little bit more healthy. Scurvy Dogs do put pressure onto the Waywatchers one more, who have to force kind of fire into polearms and units they don't really want to focus down. But a lovely Prey of Nothrama has come in. Arrows of Kurnos combined with Waywatcher fire is doing massive damage to Count Noctilus here, who's really starting to suffer. And if he goes down, I think this game is probably going to be very Wood Elf favoured. Glade Guard are now starting to get some shots into the Night Terrors, which has made them rampage. And down the dreaded Count Noctilus goes. It looks like Dacta is indeed going to throw in the towel at that point. And I think it was pretty much game. A lot of his Scurvy Dogs were forced off at this point, and really close game, but it is going to be 1-1 in this best of 5 final. Awesome play there by both players. Let's do a tiny bit of analysis here. So, well played once again to Dacta and Showtime. Showtime bringing this back to a 1-1 series. Well, I think about it. Actually, no, let's do a breakdown before we pop up that pesky screen blocker and the like. So overall, Dacta's build, very similar to a build we saw early on in the tournament, which worked up against Wood Elves. And that is because you get the Scurvy Dogs to pressure the skirmishers, Mongols will help you win that front line up against Dryads and the like, and then you simply outshoot the Wood Elves with the overwhelming firepower of the Deck Gunners, Count Noctilus and the Mortars. But Showtime pitting on a Wood Elf masterclass here. I'm a massive fan of his build. It is incredibly micro-intensive, so very well played to him to keeping all his units kind of in the right positions at the right time. Waywatchers got on top of key targets, and so did the Glade Guard, picking off the gunners, picking off the mortars and all those kind of long-range troops, and having faith that the Dryads would be able to grind through the front line without the bow support. Now, the best thing he did was these Glade Riders were used masterfully. So, using them to protect the Waywatchers, normally you see expensive Wild Riders and the like who tend to get shot and pinned down. But because there was Waywatchers and so many bowfire coming in, the Vampire Pirates were kind of forced to shoot the enemy bowmen. Otherwise, they're going to get simply, killed by sheer waves of arrows. So, it means they couldn't focus down the Glade Riders as much as they liked. Glade Riders, a bit cheaper than Wild Riders, can do bowfire while sitting back, and then can countercharge Scurvy Dogs. So I think that's a really good showcase all round of kind of the power of Glade Riders in general. So that is going to be 1-1 here, guys. Let's pop up the screen blocker and change the scores quickly. There we go. So it is going to be 1. Oh, just going to take a quick sip of my drink to make sure my voice survives. Delicious stuff right there. So let's hop into this game and load up the next replay. Cool. Let's pop up, get rid of that pesky screen blocker. Although it is pretty glorious, it's such a good picture. It looks like Dactyr is going to be falling back onto his Empire, a faction he is very good with, and we saw him use in the tournament earlier on as well, up against Showtime, who I believe his main faction is Greenskins. If it's not his main faction, he is just incredibly powerful with them, as we saw earlier on in the tournament as well. And we are going to be playing on Alpine Ridge, one of the old classic Rome Total War maps, although it's very different from how it looked then. There's a lovely big shot block in the middle, really allows you to kind of disguise your deployments and the like, although it looks like both players decided to set up on this right-hand flank. So, for the forces of the Empire here, we do have double Outriders. I'm actually a big fan of the grenade launchers in this matchup, but Outriders can still do decent armor-piercing damage up against any of those big key targets. We have Swordsmen dotted along the front line, something Dactyr used in a previous build as well, kind of turning his back on the Spearman meta here. But Swordsmen, I think, can do a pretty decent job. We had to chew through Goblins, go toe-to-toe with Orc Boys and the like. We even have Sigma Sons in the front line, and they're going to be blessed by the mighty Volkmar making an appearance once more, coming in with Grand Soulfire, Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigma, Banishment, and Jade Griffin, of course. We do have some Spearmen guarding the flanks and the rear here. Going to be helping protect his troops as much as possible. And then we have Knights of the Blazing Sun, these rock and roll heavy cav. Anti-infantry, flaming attacks as well, makes them a really good answer to those pesky trolls that the Greenskins do indeed like to bring. So really nice pick there of those Knights. We have the Silver Bullets in the central pocket. These guys, of course, have Stalk, so they cannot be seen into the enemy too close and do really nice armor-piercing damage. We also have a Mad and not heretical, I suppose, but mad and devoted, that's a better word for it, as he roars there. Bright Wizard, coming in with the Burning Head, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball. So, really awesome build all round. Going to be relying quite heavily on that cavalry contingent to win the day, while Sigma clears out the chaff. Now we have a very interesting build and interesting formation so far coming in by the Greenskin forces. We have a bucket ton of Goblin Wolf Rider Archers mixed in with Forest Goblin Rider Archers as well, including the Morgrub's Mangy Marauders, Regiment of Renowned Ones, which are immune to psychology here. Although it looks like they actually have a weakness to fire, which I didn't know about. Oh no, that's because the fireball has been cast, of course. Silly me. So a nice little skirmish corps there. Greenskin skirmishers, very cheap and very effective for their cost. In the front battle line, we have Goblins, yes, the most cheap and cheerful of all chaps. These little bad boys are going to be able to swarm and help slowly pin down the enemy. They will struggle quite heavily, though, up against the Swordsmen. In the secondary battle line, we have Orc Boys mixed in with Black Orcs, the bad to the bones warriors. We also have the 8 Pigloons as well, so much more elite secondary line. And then we have a ton of cav as well. Orc Boar Boys getting a bit of love, which is always good to see. And these guys have, okay armor, 65 and a bronze shield. Not great for heavy cav, but, they have been improved in recent patches. And they have, a pretty good charge bonus of 48. Best way to use them is basically as a shock cavalry, in my opinion. And cycle charge, which is going to take a lot of micro, but as we've seen from the previous game, Showtime certainly does have that micro on lock. We have Vindictive Glare and Gorkle Fixit, Night Goblin Shaman down on the ground. And then up in the skies, we do have Azag the Slaughterer coming with Spirit Leech, as well as his, what was they called again? The Slaggers Slashers, plus 10 melee attack and leadership to all nearby troops is pretty damn useful. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway, as the Greenskin Skirmish Corps is going to pop forward, probably trying to counter-skirmish the Outriders all round. And in general, bow skirmishers tend to out-skirmish archers. Tend to out-skirmish guns. Simply normally due to range and kind of arc of fire. You can kind of shoot and move a lot easier than you can with guns, but at the same time guns do more damage. So it does depend a little bit on kind of players' micro and the like. Outriders can get some nice little free damage on Azag, as well as a fat fireball coming through here. And Azag has no way of healing here, but he does certainly have the moves like Jagger there, juking that fireball, wrapping around as it does fly off to destroy some poor Bretonnian peasant's home somewhere in the distance, no doubt. Outriders are being forced back here by the bowfire as the Greenskins do slowly advance here. They're going to take the high ground on top of the hill, but it looks like the Empire forces more than happy just to chill out, sit back, and wait for the Greenskins to march on them. But we are going to be getting a nice surround here coming in by the Greenskin forces, trying to wrap around where possible. But the Empire holding their position rather nicely. I'm quite a big fan of this formation right now. It looks like the Mangy Marauders nearly going to some spearmen. It looks like they're really trying to pressure those Outriders. Azag is floating overhead, perhaps waiting to drop a Spirit Leech, but he's going to be taking a few shots the longer he does sit here. We are going to receive another Fireball. Is he going to be able to juke this one? Oh, he tries it, but he gets clipped on his tail. Volkmar being very bold, as he ought to be, driving forward and running over some Black Orcs before coming back to the main battle line. And these Goblins are they're just going to die. There's no way these Goblins are going to do anything. A lancing charge from the Knights of the Blazing Sun just absolutely wrecked these guys. Swordsmen can quite comfortably deal with them as well. The Black Orcs are going to be coming in now. So Knights of the Blazing Sun have been used in the front line to charge in and then once again pull out and bounce around to different engagements, which is such masterful play here with the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Always good to see. There's a big overload though coming in that has wrapped all the way round for the Greenskins. This is also really nice pressure, and they're going to come in, be able to shut down the Outriders and the Silver Bullets if the Empire aren't careful here. We do have a fat banishment coming down, as well as a burning head, roasting some of their own spearmen, but destroying some Orc boys, and friend and foe alike. There is a massive damage comes down. I think though the Empire certainly came out on top there, but a little bit of friendly fire. But, you know, they're the peasantry. They deserve to die here. Looks like a lot of Knights of the Blazing Sun did come back here to help protect the back line, so the Orc boys instead decided to swoop in and try and hammer down the front line instead. But with Volkmar here, it's not going too well for them, and the Greenskins certainly start to struggle to break in here. Looks like Azag is going to jump onto the Bright Wizard, but he's surrounded by enemies. Knights of the Blazing Sun once again bounce back in an attempt to slay the beast, although Orc Boar boys are pushing through the front line, and for the most part the Greenskins are winning the front line engagement. It's just how quickly can they break through, and no, Azag landing here could be disastrous, as he simply cannot pull out from all these troops. He's managed to terrify some of them and drop a fat Spirit Leech down on some of these Knights, but being surrounded by so many heavy cav whilst being shot by the Silver Bullets is really going to drag Azag down in the dirt here, and that's a shame. Things were starting to look pretty good for the Greenskins. Black Orcs both incredibly healthy and pushing into the back line, although there's still a decent amount of Knights of the Blazing Sun as well, so the battle's kind of on a knife tip there, but losing Azag like this is going to be pretty rough. With the Knights of Blazing Sun just simply be able to kind of run him down to just 200 health there. He's almost certainly going to flee off the edge of the battlefield here. Spearmen as well now being used to keep these skirmishers at bay, keep them an arm's reach away, which is going to allow hopefully the rest of the Empire forces to clear up the Greenskins. But Black Orcs are still going strong here, but I do fear that they're simply going to get cycle charged to death by Knights of the Blazing Sun. But every time these Knights do charge in, you can see big cleaving swipes from the Black Orcs are going to take down models here. Oh, and a lovely shot coming in from the Goblin Great Shaman, or Goblin Basic Shaman here. Does in fact shatter the Fire Wizard, so one mage slaughters another. And there's going to be no more fire magic left, but Volkmar is certainly going to be tasty here, managing to break off the Black Orcs, and this is a disaster for the Greenskin forces. Now these Knights of the Blazing Sun can simply hunt them down and finish them off, as the Black Orcs, one of the only units left with the decent armor-piercing damage left to really deal with Volkmar and all these Knights of the Blazing Sun. Skirmish Corps has managed to finish off the Knights over on this right-hand flank, however, and have decent enough ammunition left, at least for the end game here, to perhaps put some pressure on this Skirmish Corps. But the Outriders are now unleashing shots into the Black Orcs, who have been hit by all the wrath of Volkmar, and the Black Orcs are starting to fall back as well from the mighty Volkmar. Looks like we are seeing a Vindictive Glare come in, but it's basically going to do no damage. Volkmar does indeed come in with a whopping 40% magic resistance, so that Goblin can try, and try he may, but Volkmar will simply laugh in his face, as a hail of bullets here does drive back the savage Greenskins. And they are falling back as balance of power is getting dangerously close to army losses. Knights of the Blazing Sun chasing down Black Orcs, finishing them off. There's some really nice play, and once again we're going to get another Thunderous Charge. I've lost count on how many times I've said Thunderous Charge this battle, and with the buff as well, it looks like Showtime is going to concede, as his Black Orcs go absolutely flying there. Very well played once again to both of these true champions. And Dacta taking this series into a 2-1 situation, so he is going to be in the driving seat. Can he clinch a victory by winning this 3-1, or will Showtime make it go all the way to the final game with a glorious comeback? We will have to wait and see to the next battle, but first and foremost, let's do another little bit of a breakdown. As for Dacta's forces, Knights of the Blazing Sun are a unit I've seen him use before very effectively, and use them in that front line just to hammer home, which gives the swordsman more time to either win engagements or also at least hold a little while longer. He then pulls back and uses them to hop and protect his back line, hop to key engagements, and it really gave him that kind of map control, I suppose, or at least in his own little pocket. He managed to protect his own troops, which then allowed the Silver Bullets Outriders to slowly pick away at some of those larger targets. It was still an incredibly close game though. The real kind of turning point was Azag getting stuck on the ground, and I really feel for Showtime because I've done this numerous times where you get your big dragon or big wyvern trapped on the ground. It gets killed, beaten to death by surrounding forces, and then, you know, it's a massive uphill game from there. I do it all the time myself, so, you know, certainly feel Showtime's pain, but still managed to put on a really good display, so close to breaking into that back line on multiple occasions, but because most of the back line was on horseback, it's really hard to kind of pin them in place, and, you know, did manage to finish them off in the end. But very well played. Let's update the scoreboard before I forget. As Mr. Dacta, let's go to properties, is in the driving seat for a 2-1 so far. But there's still plenty of time for Showtime to come back into this. Let's pop up the screen blocker. Just going to have another quick sip before we do get into this next battle. Also, the best thing about doing this as a premiere is I haven't seen these battles yet, so I don't even know who wins, which is pretty awesome. I just, you know, just got sent a load of replays and I'll just go through them. So let's hop up here and go to the next one. And then, before I forget, we will take down that glorious screen blocker and hop in. So it looks like Dacta is indeed going to be going Greenskins. He liked what he saw and is going to be flipping it around to them here. And it looks like Showtime is going to be leading the forces of Norsca. Incredibly powerful faction all round. And we're going to pause this because it looks like this battle's going to get underway extremely quickly here. So two Rush factions who do play relatively similar in certain matchups at least. Both very good at swarming, both very good at pushing aggressively. And we'll have to see how this one does play out. So for the forces of Dacta here, trying to claim the crown of this first qualifier and book his place in the season's grand finals, is going to be leading his forces with some naked goblins. Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers are going to be dotted along. These guys do poison, and skirmishing up against Norsca can be a little bit tough because they have so many quick moving units, but they also have a lot of low armoured units as well. So Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, a very good pick. For his main battle line, we do have a mixture of goblins, savage orc biggins. These guys look ferocious, and they're pretty scary. Immune to psychology, physical resistance, bonus versus large. They can certainly do good in this matchup. And they're going to be mixed in with black orcs as well. So real kind of tough, heavy, hardcore infantry build coming in from the Greenskins with a little bit of skirmishing play as well. We have a goblin big boss as well as a goblin great shaman on top of the mighty spider. Now, I think a little tip on these people. People tend to think that Goblin Great Shamans are incredibly tanky. They do have 7,500 health and 120 armor, but they will go down if you shoot them, so don't be scared to kind of shoot at these bad boys. I think it's a bit more squishy than the Arachnoid Queen, which people often compare it to. We have Don't Even Try It, Crown of Command, Gorkle Fixer, as well as Vindictive Glare and Sneaky Stabbings, so a good set of spells all around. With a tiny archer corps, the Rusty Arrows mixed in with Orc Arrow Boys. Of course, the Rusty Arrows do come in with that armor sundering, which is always nice. And way in the back, we have the Hammer of Gork with some brave and noble goblins going to be left to defend this bad boy. And it's interesting to see Greenskin artillery, which isn't Doom Divers for once. So overall, really fun build. Going to be trying to meet the Norskans probably at this center point to help kind of protect their flank and allow the rock to do damage to any elite infantry the Norskans bring. As for the Norskans, on each flank we have some Norscan Ice Wolves accompanied by Armoured Skin Wolves. And it looks like on the other side they are indeed going to be the Maws of Savagery here. A unit you don't get to see terribly often at all. These guys do have regeneration. We see the more savagery a little bit longer, a little bit more than the basic armoured ones. But I guess the armour is going to protect them up against the skirmishers. They slow down their speed a little bit for it, but I can certainly see that kind of being a good play as well. In the front line, we do have the Beasts of Tashnar as well, or sorry, in more of a vanguard position here. Regiment of renowned Norscan Warhounds, bonus versus large, and all that good stuff. For the main battle line, again, we have some bad to the bones units on the flanks with Marauder champions, dotted in here with Marauders all the way along the front line. So 3 champions. Going to be interesting to see how they do fare up against the Savage Orc Biggins as well as the Black Orcs. But these guys, pretty elite, fantastic stats, and going to be screaming in Wulfric's name here. As for the hero contingent, we do have a Famir Balefiend of Fire coming in with a Flaming Sword of Rune and Burning Head. And we have Mighty Wulfric the Wanderer on his Mammoth, of course, just taking a chill seat here, up in the high ground, I suppose, with Hunter Champions and Seafang. Seafang could be pretty key here to pushing off a lot of the arch units in the back, or doing big damage along that front line. So without further ado, guys, let's get this battle underway. So instantly, the Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers are going to be running away from the Beast of Tashnar, which is a good idea, but then falling back to friendly lines, spotting that the Norscan Ice Wolves might be a little bit nasty to tangle with. They've decided to fall back as much as possible as the Marauders do start to advance. Greenskins going to be repositioning here. Looks like I'm maybe trying to push the Norscans into this central pocket where possible, using the kind of layout of the map. And hope that the Hound of Gork can stay online as long as possible. But Norscan Ice Wolves could honestly just float back here and shut this down. The Goblins aren't going to be able to stop them. But the Forest Goblin Rider Archers may be able to. And they've kind of floated back here as well to help protect a little bit more. It looks like the Armoured Skin Wolves do pop down. Get a free cycle charge on some Goblins. Wet their chops a little bit before falling back. Any damage they take as well, they're simply regen, so they're not too scared. Big damage done to the champions there. Must have been a Vindictive Glare, I'd assume, or maybe some Bowfire coming in, doing some work. But it looks like the Balefiend of Fire is also taking some damage there. Maybe a friendly Fireball. It looks like I missed that one, unfortunately, there. But on the right-hand side, it looks like we are going to get a nice wrap-around by Showtime here, trying to put pressure on the back line and allow his infantry to chew through the enemy. Goblins and Savage Orc Biggins do engage with Marauders, and they will be able to win that engagement due to the help of the Savage Orc Biggins. But it looks like we are going to see the Armoured Skin Wolves and Norscan Ice Wolves collapse on the back here of this flank, and this is really lovely play by the Norscans to help them try to win the frontline engagements as Wulfric does pop forward. In the back line, the Beasts and the Norscan Ice Wolves do try to pressure the Hammer of Gork, but are pushed away here as the frontline engagement is underway. And we are going to see a fat boat in the distance as well, driving its way through Black Orcs and Savage Orc Biggins, doing some okay damage. It's better against kind of more lightly armoured troops. Big Fireball as well, going to go down through the Savage Orcs, but the Champions just took a massive hammering in the front line due to the Goblin Great Shaman and the Black Orcs. Savage Orc Biggins as well have pushed through, and this is an absolute messy fight here. What a scrappy affair. As the Skin Wolves are surrounded by the Savage Orc Biggins there, and they're kind of forced back, which is a real nice counter punch by Dactyr. And now the war is active. Wulfric is just being hammered by missile pressure. Look at these pesky Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers. I'd be furious at these guys just floating around, cackling, pinning shots into Wulfric. They need stabbing is popped on him, lowering his armor. And of course, the archers as well did some really great work on him there. Lovely combination with the sneaky stabbing, or not, they need stabbing, plus the archers here. As the front line of the Norscans is simply crumbling, they're pushing through in certain areas. The Rusty Arrows have been shut down, for example. And the Greenskins have taken a lot of damage as well. Moors of Savagery have now popped on top of the Hammer of Gork. So very close game nonetheless. Looks like we're going to see another Fat Burning Head come down, but looks like Dactyr is aware of this and does manage to pull back. He's also dragging his Savage Orc Biggins over here to deal with these champions, allow the archers to continue their continuous fire on top of Wulfric. Goblin Great Shaman has popped over here now to duel Wulfric. If he has Hunter Champions, he probably wants to turn and fight this, as a lot of his forces are kind of getting scattered to the wind. He has a pocket of strength on this right-hand side, shutting down the Archer Corps, but Wulfric is all alone and isolated on the left flank, and this could be a big problem, as, if the Norscans can unite their forces here, they certainly have a fantastic shout, but Wulfric, with a Gork will fix it to slow him down so he can't escape, is simply being wrecked here. Looks like he managed to pop a boat despite being routing there. Must have done it just beforehand. No doubt getting some good value, but Armoured Skin Wolves as well, kind of over chasing, are going to be coming back to the main fray, trying to rally and surround the remaining Greenskin hordes, which is probably the best idea he has left here. Moors of Savagery have been hit by Don't Even Try It, wavering and indeed terrified. The Savage Orc Biggins really showing their might in this matchup, helping to beat down some of the Skin Wolves and still go toe-to-toe with the Marauders in the front line. The entire Skirmish Corps desperate to push off Wulfric here, really wanting to hammer him home where possible. And it looks like that is going to be game, so the mighty Dacta is going to take this series 3-1. An awesome game. Massive shout out to Showtime as well, putting on a very impressive display all round. Let's quickly update the scoreboard before we go through the tournament and the breakdown a little bit in the end here. So 3-1 to the mighty Dacta, very well played to him. He is going to be this qualifier's champion. So he will be booking his place in the grand finals along with 3 other people who are obviously yet to be decided. And they'll be playing for a prize of some description. Not sure what it is yet. It'll probably be a monetary prize or a t-shirt prize or something along those lines. But anyway guys, before we do a little breakdown, hope you have been enjoying this first ever premiere, or if you're watching it afterwards, standard video. If you did, feel free to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It really honestly helps out a huge amount, especially when we have problems like this where I have to have a stream and then it kind of breaks down and we have to redo as a video. It's really hard to kind of push the second video and get those people back watching. So I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me throughout this time anyway, and it's been really good fun. We had 36 people turn out for this event, which is crazy huge. It was an event which took place over the course of, God knows, like 5-6 hours maybe. So these guys with some good durability as well, playing all the way through. So yeah, hope you guys did enjoy, and if you want to play in the future tournaments and the like, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link down below in the description, as well as links to other ways you can support the channel, either via my Patreon, which is now fully up and running, or via kind of donations, any of that type of fun stuff. And I believe you can even do the weird YouTube chat pay thing, maybe on a premiere. Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, really fun build all round by Dacta, going hardcore heavy infantry. Black Orcs and Savage Orc Biggins mixed in. Really managed to overwhelm the champions, and I quite like the idea of Showtime's build, coming in with those elite infantry to clear through, goblins, orc boys, and slowly grind your way through. But coming up against the Black Orcs, as well as a ridiculous amount of missile support, really did kind of pay the price there. He managed to get in the back lines and shut down the kind of static archers. But once again, this is something we've seen Dacta do quite a lot throughout the tournament, is these mobile archer units. He's Outriders, Forest Goblin, Spider Rider, Archers. You can tell he's a Wood Elf player. He's very good at microing these type of units and dragging them away, and they just couldn't get caught, and they do that consistent damage. Combining them, the Rusty Arrows, and then the debuff by the Goblin Big Boss to lower the armor of Wulfric, all of a sudden these archers who don't do too much damage are just slaughtering one of the most powerful lords in the game, which is some pretty crazy stuff indeed. Anyway guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, let me know in the comments down below and all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in and watching with me. As always, stay awesome. Until next time guys, peace.